Hello. So I am back today, and I wanted to share some of my thoughts on something I've been seeing a lot more now, but been seeing a lot more people supporting this view that I have. Um, I know that sharing this view, I'll just give a disclaimer, is going to make some people mad because they're going to paint me as someone who doesn't care about our healthcare workers, or someone who doesn't care about nurses, or doesn't care or whatever, doesn't care for their health or well-being, or doesn't care about their families or whatever. But what I'm about to say is just a truthful thought I've had about the whole situation going on right now, and I thought I would share it because I think I'm not the only one who feels this way. And if anything, it's just to kind of give that check to the people who maybe are um, losing sight of what's important, or maybe they're kind of being their egos are maybe being boosted right now because they are being overwhelmingly propped up in society, which I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but at some point the ego does kick in for some people, and it actually is exposing what is really happening. So I had these thoughts for a while, but it was a post on Twitter by this person. This is their handle. It's Natalie F. Danelshin, and her handle is at capital CHESS Chick01. And it was a picture of nurses recreating the Last Supper kind of table on their shifts. And her comment was, "This the most disgusting hubris I have seen from this shit show, basically." And she also commented, "One, I do know many great doctors and nurses. My sister is an RN. I would not put up with this shit from her and would call her out on it too. People are sick and dying from things other than COVID 19 right now because they can't go to hospitals. Cancer treatments are being put off, heart surgeries, etc., to make doctors and nurses' lives/work easier. So some humble pie for those suffering would be great rather than TikTok videos and this shit." And then she linked an article titled End the Shutdown from Mises.org. And she commented, "Personally, I think we should end the shutdown. Most hospitals are clearly not overwhelmed, and the longer this drags on, the higher the likelihood that people will die from inadequate medical care rather than COVID 19. And there's a mix of comments, mostly supporting her view and some not supporting it. Um, One in particular said, "How dare we have a sense of humor while working 72-hour shifts?" And clearly, he got a lot of support for that, but it looks like a lot of people um, kind of commented back and forth. And some people said, "Yeah, it's getting old. You're doing your job. You're not God." And so I thought those were two kind of, and they're the two top comments. So I'm guessing that's a reason. There's a reason why. But I actually wanted to give my thoughts on this because I actually feel the same way. I feel like in society, I think the same thing happens with a lot of public servants who society has chosen to label as being under valued and under paid, which those two things may be the case. But I feel like the problem is some people swing the pendulum way too far over there and say these people need to be praised and worshipped, and we need to owe our whole lives to them, which I think is the wrong way to go about it. I think anytime you prop someone up as God other than God, and I've seen this a lot recently, even with our president, I support President Trump, but I don't put him as like my end all be all. Everything he says is what I take as word, and I don't think about anything else, and it's just whatever he says goes kind of thing. I am not that type of supporter. When he makes sense, I agree with him, or I support it, but sometimes I don't agree with some of the things he says or does, and the way he says or does them, right? Um, and I appreciate my teachers that I've grown up with. They have contributed in a lot of ways, but they aren't the only factor in my success or anything in my life. They're a part of it, and I owe them a lot to them. But I don't bow down to them and think that they're almighty perfect beings. And this is a clear example of that. Is these nurses that it's all great fun to. I agree. You need to take a break and relax and kind of let some steam off, especially if you're in a high stress situation. But the idea that the frontline workers in hospitals are the only ones that are in high stress, high risk environments, or are one of the few that are, is not true. Every single person, even in your own house, you have a lot of risks that are just part of life, right? Walking out of your door is a risk every single day. Driving in your car is a risk every day. Of course, these people are on the front lines as far as dealing with sick people, but in general, everyone deals with sick people when out and about, right? The problem I have with this is people who do the job just for the praise. And I think, of course, there's nurses and doctors and healthcare workers and people who do all the professions to actually give back. And those are the ones that I want to salute because they do it because it's their job and because they signed up for it. They're not expecting hazard pay. They're not expecting people to give them free food or give them handouts or praise them 24/7 or bow down to them. That is why you do profession, because you truly do it for the meaning that it is. The problem I see with society, and is what this girl pointed out, is treating them as if they are like godlike beings, and they're doing great work. I'm not like denying that, but the idea that they're the only ones doing that and the idea that everyone should bow down to them is, I think, incorrect in this situation, because it's clearly actually exposing the truth in this situation. Here's what I mean by that. All these TikTok videos of nurses doing these dances, all these videos of them posing for pictures or funny pictures or whatever it is, it's great and all to see them taking a step back and relaxing, but it does beg the question, and it's something I've thought about this entire time, is so we're all on lockdown, or we're all at stay-at-home orders, lockdown, whatever you want to call it. We're expected to shut our businesses down, close them, follow all these protocols so that the hospitals aren't overwhelmed, or they can prepare for being overwhelmed. And while we are all sacrificing, hospitals are actually way low on capacity to the point where they're actually sending nurses home and even furloughing nurses. So the idea that we're, as a collective society, sacrificing a lot to make sure that they have supplies they need and they are prepared, for them to basically treat it as, maybe they don't mean it that way, but it looks like they are treating it as a joke, and they're kind of rubbing it in our faces that they, that we should bow down to them, and that they are stressed or whatever and trying to relieve stress and whatnot. It is kind of a slap in the face to the rest of society, and it actually might be working against them. I think a lot of people might actually resent nurses and resent hospitals and resent public health officials for implementing these guidelines when they see a ton of nurses at different hospitals around the country making these videos, which I'm not saying you shouldn't relax or whatever, have fun, but is this the right time to be sharing that hospitals are clearly, or be implying that hospitals and whatnot are clearly not busy, which was the whole reason for the shutdown and for shuttering businesses and for the stimulus, or whatever you want to call it, the relief package? To me, they just kind of exposed themselves. And I think it gives a bad name to other nurses who aren't doing this. I think it gives a bad name to public health in general. And I think it is actually breaking down the trust between the public and health practitioners or health care workers, for the people who are seeing through and seeing what this really means. If you have time to stage a photo like this, if you have time to choreograph a dance, if you have time, I saw one where they were putting like, I don't know, they're not beach balls, but whatever, like medicine ball or something, in their stomachs and in their butts, and like dancing outside of each door. And it was like a whole hallway of just empty doors, and they were just making a dance. So I just find it troubling that this is happening, and a lot of people are actually hating on or expressing their dislike for someone like me who has this view, because they think I am discounting healthcare workers, when really I'm seeing it for what it is, and reading between the lines and seeing, hey, or questioning, hey, if you have the time to make these videos, why are we shutting down society for you? That's my, if they were, I think it'd be more responsible to say, hey, we're getting sent home, but I'm going to use this time to rest, so when the surge does come in patients, I am rested and able to take care of people, or show them napping and resting or whatnot. Show them relax and saying, hey, we're getting rested because we want to make sure we're alert and ready and able to care for you. I think that would have been a lot better way to go about it, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens. But I just thought it was very interesting. Same goes for these viral pictures that you've probably been seeing of nurses blocking protesters on the streets in some cities. I think the one I saw was in Denver, and I've actually seen a video that actually is most likely fake, meaning there was 2 photographers with someone who was dressed up as a nurse in scrubs, and they would wait for a red light, because obviously on a red light you don't cross the intersection, to go into the crosswalk, pose in front of a car that's holding up a banner or sign or whatever, pose blocking like with their arms, whatever, take a picture, and then get it back across the street before the light turns green. People need to wake up to what's really going on here. Now, I know these nurses mean well. I know they're doing great work, but I think we all need to be more careful about what we believe, start questioning things, even if it makes you look bad on the outside. I think it's important to question things. I don't think anyone can fault you for questioning people's intentions or what they might be displaying to the public by doing these things. And I think everyone is waking up to this. One last thing I want to say is, as much as I appreciate nurses and doctors and whatnot, at the end of the day, it is a profession people choose to go into. Just like I chose to go into transportation, where sometimes I am on the side of a freeway or a highway or the street, exposed to the elements, and there is a huge element of risk there where I have to trust that the drivers going by me when I'm out of the car checking things, or even in the car, that they are aware and alert, and they are taking proper protocols to make sure I am safe and the person I'm with is safe, so we can go home to our families too. It's not the same level of risk as someone in a hospital, but it is a risk, and it's very dangerous. Just like people who own retail stores, they are in danger too, because they might not have personal security there, and someone can come in and rob them or hold them at gunpoint, whatever it is, right? I don't want anything, by the way, I don't want any of these things to happen, but I just wanted to share how everyone has risks in their world, and I think it's important that we don't take one as more important than the other, or one type of risk as being more like empathetic or more, I don't know the words to say, but I think you get what I'm saying. Whereas nurses are like an obvious, or not obvious, now they're obvious, they have an obvious risk to them because they're literally dealing with sick people, but we all have risks in whatever jobs we're doing, what we do every single day, going out and about. So I just wanted to make that point very clear. And if you're a nurse watching, or you know a nurse, maybe share this with them to kind of give them a heads up, or kind of maybe breathe a little light on that if you've seen them posting these videos, and maybe say, hey, maybe you might not want to do that because it's actually making you look kind of bad, and maybe just hold off on that, because we're all kind of sacrificing a lot for you guys as well. So I think I'm going to wrap it up there. Let me know what you think. Did you have some of the same thoughts when you saw these videos, or had you even thought of it like this, or are you just kind of like, whatever, let them do whatever they want kind of thing? Let me know, and I would love to hear it. So I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.